we take another glance back at the early days of the park, how it was sold to the Delos Corporation, and why its true purpose has nothing to do with entertainment. Also, with the hosts loose and unrestrained in the park, zombie rules apply. Gotta shoot 'em in the head. It's Westworld, Season 2, Episode 2, Reunion. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Westworld. So yes, spoilers are a-coming. Alright, so, nice episode this week. Again, really more backstory than story evolution here. Just sort of letting us know kind of the deeper, darker designs behind Delos, behind their whole meaning for being behind the park, which I thought was really well done. And it was, again, always some additional insight when we get some of these flashbacks, some more surprising than others. But let's start things off with Dolores being in the real world. In fact, many of the hosts being in the real world. You know, it was interesting seeing that opening bit, how we have Ford and Arnold arguing in a way how Dolores is Arnold's favorite. She's not ready to go to the party here, that it's not her time. And in some ways that does sort of make sense. I mean, Dolores is the original. She is unique in her own certain ways. But I loved is how insightful that she was and how much she was accepting this new world around, how at a certain point she started falling back in the loop. You know, when first seeing outside it looks like someone spread the stars across the ground. Have you ever seen anything as splendid, you know? And then at the end, after Ford takes him to his future house for his family and kid, Arnold did have those, and shows the rest and wanting to come back, and she just kind of goes through that whole conversation and then looks out and starts like this loop again. It's like someone spread the stars out on the ground. Have you ever seen anything so splendid? So it does show the certain limitations, at least at the time, of the technology and also this new exposure to new things. But that was just, again, kind of the taste. We meet up with Logan again, young Logan, young William, which was kind of exciting to see, a little flashback, these characters, and how Logan was sort of sold the Argos Initiative, aka what would be Westworld, in kind of the perfect way. Interesting that Angela showing up there with Cochita, considering that Angela is the greeter in Westworld and sort of who was have a little thing teased with William when he eventually comes into the park. This obviously happening before that. And then pulling Logan into the park, it's a test, and he's thinking it's just one or two. And of course, I figured immediately it was going to be the entire crowd, which it was. And that was a really great moment. I think that was handled really well because we have Logan, who is kind of a lecherous, power-driven creature as it is, excited about, oh my God, this one is a thing, but it's amazing and it's different and it feels, you know, and then everybody freezes. He could almost accept the one. And then when everyone does, it's like that uncanny valley. They talk about technology. When you get things too close, there's that point where it gets too real, but not quite real enough, and it just has that odd psychological effect. This is that, even though everything looked real, the fact that it's not, and how Logan almost loses it. He does have that sort of creepy response of like, oh my God, no, it can't be. And then, obviously, the real seller for Logan is sex. That's what does it, and not just one, with all of them. I love that shot is better. You just got boy, girl, Angela dressing up as Dolores walks in and sort of sees her. It's like, yeah, this is how Logan's going to sell it. So obviously it's at this point where he decides to invest and he gets William, and then they go off and they have that whole park thing that we saw in season 1. And then we start to get more of the glimpses of how William ends up selling it to Daddy Delos there. And again, we start seeing Dolores involved in all of these past scenes in somehow, which becomes very important, really, and it's one that they don't really expect that. But I love the whole sales pitch, that sort of character stuff. I mean, in some ways it's a little rote where you have the new upstart insults the big guy who's never been insulted because he's such a captain of industry, and now, but hey, you're cheeky. Go ahead and tell me about your path. You're willing to stand up to me. You know, that sort of makes sense. But I loved how William was selling it. You know, how he was being honest, is that it's not so much about entertainment. What is real here are the people, are the guests. And this is a place where they can be free from judgment. And that's the recurring theme that they have throughout all of this past stuff, that this is a place where people can be themselves. As William tells Lawrence later on at the bar, a place separated from God, where there would be no judgment. Again, where people can be themselves. And this starts to play in really interesting to what the ultimate goal that Delos has, which they don't get to, but they sort of imply. I mean, your general idea is if we can spy on them, we can see all their deepest, darkest secrets. This would be a form of blackmail. But I don't think that it's that. It seems to be something so much more powerful. And blackmail just doesn't seem to be something that they would settle for. Now, we did get a few extra flashes of insight in our look into the past, one of which is that Logan survived season 1. Looked like when William put him on top of that horse naked and sent him off into the backlands of Westworld that he died at some point, but apparently not. He's become a bit of a junkie. He's shooting up there at his dad's retirement party. But that was also kind of an interesting bit. Again, you can see where Logan has lost that power to William. William has really become more of himself, the person he was meant to be. Because it's not so much a retirement party, but more of a coronation, I think is the idea that they put, is that this is William now stepping up into that role, that he is now taking over this point of the corporation. Now, the years have passed. They're married. William's married. He's got a daughter. You know, she's 6, 8. You know, hard to guess, you know, just from size there. But, you know, definitely many years have passed. Looks like Dad was dying, so his retirement is just kind of one of those move things. He's stepping out because he's dying, and that allows William to go and step forward. But again, Logan drops that interesting line to Dolores, which is really important that she's in all of these scenes. But that idea of that they are setting fire to the they're setting fire to the whole damn species, and they lit the match. They're laughing because they have just lit fire under the whole species. This is talking about a bigger thing. That's what I'm saying. It's not so much blackmail seems so cheap compared to what would be, again, what William said later on is his greatest mistake, what it is that he's going after. Logan here is saying that they have set fire to the species. And this is also really, I mean, it's dangerous for two things. One, it's implying this larger picture, this larger goal that Delos has, which I will get into. But really what's important here is Dolores. Because Dolores isn't here in all of these systems and all of these scenes. And even when William comes back and says that kind of messed up thing, I don't believe I loved you, you're just a thing. You're not even a thing, you're just a mirror or reflection, and people like to look at themselves, and that's what it is that you're here for. So bad enough that he says this sort of speech to her. But then he shows her. Now what he shows her looks like a giant construction site. But I think this is the basis of what the plans for Westworld are. What it was that William sold, the idea that William sold it to Papa Delos of why to invest, of what it is that he wants to do with this park, the real true purpose of the park. And that's dangerous because, as we know, Dolores now remembers everything. Not just her experiences in the park, but every bit of information she has ever been exposed to. Starting from first seeing the real world, that's why she remembers it, because Arnold took out there. to hearing all of the real purpose of the park, because she was there in all of those scenes where these discussions were taking place. Whether it was in the main street there where William is selling it to Papa Delos, or whether it's at Delos's retirement party where she is standing right there playing the piano, listening to all of their conversations, talking to Logan down there, or even William showing her this location, this place, the real purpose behind it. She remembers all of it. And what they thought they were just talking to some brainless bot, now is what's really going to come up and bite them on the ass. Their judgment is coming through her. Now, of course, one person who can't remember anything would be Teddy, but he certainly does now. So I guess we see what it was that Dolores wanted to show Teddy initially was the backstage of Westworld, where all the technology and things and repair and stuff happens. And I have to say, that scene with Teddy there, where he's looking over his history and he's asking the technician who would do this, there was, man, James Marsden, you really got the most out of this scene. There was so much emotion that was happening, cascading all at once, from confusion to questioning to anger to disbelief to horror. I mean, all of that happening right there, and really some nice close camera shots. Just, James Marsden's a great actor. He's done a lot of amazing things, but this is just one of those nice evidentiary moments of just selling it, selling that emotion, that change, that conflict right to camera. And also shows that Dolores seems to have a soft spot for technicians. I don't know, I mean, okay, Maeve really has more of a soft spot for at least one or two certain specific technicians that she's had sort of contact with. But that's all I thought when I saw Dolores. Is just like, well, she seems to have a soft spot for this guy. She's not taking him out. And then you're like, oh, because she needs him. She's going to use him to drag along and recruit her troops, which was just beautiful. It was great. It was wonderful. It is, in fact, this week's Scene of the Week. And that is, of course, when she goes to try and recruit the Confederales there with Major Craddock. That was just awesome. Because, again, so much happening in this scene. They walk in, they're in just, it's just the three of them, well, plus the technician, who we didn't even really notice until sort of later on. Trying to sell that point. Hey, we brought your guy back. Yeah, he was dead. The belly full of Mexican lead. Now he's back, so our people are really confused. But the whole sell right there of what she needed to do, and this is the way they're going to go, and the fact that Dolores was just so confident. I was kind of wondering, because again, the Confederales here, man, they're no joke. And at this point, death really becomes a permanent thing. No one's going to rebuild Dolores or Teddy or anyone if they get taken out. So there was so much tension brought up. It was great kind of back and forth there of who needs what, and then just Dolores just totally turning it like lucky. You know, whenever the small party locks the door, that it's going to be trouble. But I still had no idea how that was going to play out. The fact that she just has Teddy and her other companion just open fire. I mean, Teddy's the gunslinger. He's the quick draw. But even this seemed to surprise him. He was almost like stunned after he did that. Like, it worked and they're not dead. And then Dick goes and resurrects him and brings him right back. Okay, technician, come on up. Bring him up. And then she just grabs him and pulls him close. And the total confusion on his face. I mean, again, played perfectly. Like, why am I not dead? I was just shot. I got holes. I'm bleeding. I'm everything. And then her line back, we've all been in the service of God for too long. That's why I killed him. So you're not going to, if you want to get to glory, you don't need to pray to him. You need me. It was just, it backed up. I mean, she talked tough and she backed it up. And it was just a beautiful, there were so many. Again, the Teddy memory scene, that was almost scene of the week. There was the scene with Alonzo and William, which we'll get to in just a sec. Also, an amazing, beautiful scene. But this one just kind of had it all. And the arrogance and the confidence and the back and forth. It was just magnificent. Oh, and older William, Man in Black, having a great time in the park. Really appreciating the new challenges. Mostly. Glad that he's back with Lawrence. They do seem to make a nice little pair there. Very creepy, dangling Lawrence above an anthill, waiting to see the ants come up and eat him out. That's just cruel. That's so mean. But yeah, definitely William's enjoying this new change in the park, embracing this challenge, and certainly willing to cheat a little bit. I love that he knows where an emergency med kit is, so he can sort of patch himself up from the bullet wounds. As long as he's not hurt too bad, he's going to be able to continue, which I loved. And again, a great scene with Lawrence there as William sort of gives him the backstory, the reason for this park, you know, that this is everything that was going on. It's entertainment, but there's so much more behind it, and this is a place where we got to go, and we need backup in order to do it. So they decide to head to Pariah. Anyway, it was a great scene, again, just seeing William open out about what the truth of the park is, and that Lawrence should work with him because it's kind of in his own interest. Everything is full, as you say, everything is falling apart. There's a real revolution going on, but that's not going to be it because you have no idea what you're up against, and we're all going to pay for it. It's just, again, that last battle. How are you going to go out? Seems to be sort of William's call right here. So it was just, I love their whole dynamic. And again, that's such a great scene once they hit to Pariah, once he runs into Alonzo and they have that sort of back and forth. Because it's an interesting question. Now that all of these storylines are able to play themselves out, they're not being haltered, they're not being reset, they're not being adjusted at any point. So all of these goals that these characters, these hosts have been trying to plan for are now sort of wrapping up. And what do you do then? What does somebody who hasn't existed long enough to be planning this as a kid, but thinks that they have been planning it for as a kid, and have been pursuing that over and over and over again over all of these years, now finally gets what they want? Where do they go? All they have is their programming as a basis. Everything after that they have to sort of make up. So is that an empty victory? Is it satisfying? Do you need something more to fill that need? I mean, that was the great back and forth we had between William and Alonzo, which I thought was handled great. Unexpected that Alonzo decided like, nah, I'm not going. Nah, I'm good here. Because it was sold very well, I thought. William had sort of proposed that. Alonzo got very scary right up in the face. Was like, man, this is somebody who's going somewhere. And it just sort of wraps it up like, nah, I'm done. It was unexpected. And I kind of liked that. Which, of course, William wasn't going to go along with, so fine. You die or I can take all of your men with you. And then we run into Ford's plan. Who was just at this point working with William so hard. So obviously his plan for so much of these contingencies. That you have to do it alone, and just has everybody just line up and boom, because again, zombie rules apply. Only way to take out the host permanently is to destroy the brain. Anything in the body, they can just be returned on again, which is what Lawrence was talking about with one of the brothers there. He was dead, but dead isn't the same as it used to be. So anyway, great thing also throwing off William because he's not going to get an army to take care of what he needs to take care of. He's going to have to do it all by himself. And maybe with Lawrence. Okay, I was really excited about Dolores and Maeve running back into each other. Really, we've got the original who remembers everything, you know, is leading this revolution. And then we have Maeve who has literally reprogrammed herself with what she needs to do with security clearances and everything to get through the park and get what she needs. So it was a great kind of meet there. And I love the kind of tension of power of what was going on. But then it ended. And I have to say I was a little disappointed in that. I mean, it was a great scene. It was a great moment. I just expected something more to happen out of it. But it's like two mighty ships passing in the wind. It's just kind of like, okay, you're badass. Okay, you're badass. There's an acknowledgement that each remembers, that each is more than what they used to be. But then they just passed in the night, went on their way. So I am hoping that more is going to come from that. Because, God, the two of those women together, just run. Okay, what is Delos after? What is the whole point of the park? A lot of hints kind of drop throughout this episode about looking into the people's real selves. I mean, even Logan had sort of sold that to William last season, is this place helps you become who you are. They get to see the real you. But it became more than that. I mean, there were, again, the idea of like, well, if they're recording what the guests are doing, then they have blackmail material. But everybody implies in this episode that it's so much more than that. Logan's calling it about setting flame to the entire species. It's a pretty serious statement. William talks about it being his greatest mistake. That this is something that he has to correct. And even how he had sold it to Papa Delos is that there's so much more to this. Again, this is the place without judgment, without God's view, where people, again, can be who they really are, really get that insight into them. Now, if we combine all those ideas with what we learned last week, that Delos is extracting not only just information from the hosts, but also guests' DNA. I think they're replacing humans. I think that's the whole goal. I think that's whatever this factory, this location at the end, the valley that they're trying to get to. I think they're making people to replace out there in the world. They can learn everything about them. They can get all their true personalities. They can even get the stuff that they hide. Then they get their DNA. Then they make a host that looks and acts just like them. And then they send them out to the world. And you do that enough, then you have all of these people in places of power. And then you have control. That would be something worth investing for. And could signal the potential demise of humanity. Because then you get to the point out there in the world, who's real and who isn't. You can't even just shoot them. You can't even necessarily take a DNA. You got to x-ray everybody. You got to really cut them and open them up. I mean, how tight are these hosts being built? Are these replicants being manufactured? So I think that's what we're going to go for. And in some ways might make sense of the entire ocean sea of bodies that we saw at the end of last season of what's happening in 2 weeks into the future from now. They might be, these are the fakes, these are the old bodies that they're dumping out in order to get into new bodies. I don't know, it's just a theory, but when you start weighing all of this evidence and all this idea, that would be something that would potentially set fire to the entire species, something that could endanger everyone, and would be something that Dolores could use as a weapon against humanity. All right, just a couple of small things. One, contingency plans. Protocol if the park is lost. What we got from our security guard, poor guy, getting his face all melted there with the drone goo and stuff. But he showed up on the map, what looked like the same location that we saw Bernard get washed up onto shore there, where we found out where Delos and the security people are rallying, their rally point, before they head back into the park to take it out sector by sector. We sort of get their little plan. So I think this is how Dolores is seeing and then deciding to infiltrate, send in the Bernard bot to go and be their spy. But of course we also get the numbers that we're going to be up against, 800 troops or so. Luckily, of course, we know that there are several hundred Confederales that are massing on the western edge of the park, and that's the reason why Dolores headed out to Major Craddock, because she's gonna need soldiers. Oh, and how Dolores used Major Craddock's story of what the plans for the Confederales were to sort of throw him off base there. Again, that was just perfect. This is Dolores remembering everything, using all those memories, knowing everything that happens in the park, because she's been there for so long. Just really put Craddock off his center there, and then he got shot, which did that even more. I did like in that scene with young William trying to sell the park to Papa Delos there, how after sort of insulting him, even Papa Delos got to his face, William had that little shaky, just not entirely sure if he just made a mistake there. I mean, one, it's a good character bit, but it also shows that evolution of the character, because we know now Man in Black William wouldn't wouldn't shake, wouldn't budge, wouldn't do anything. This is younger William still finding his place in the Black Hat world. So anyway, just a nice bit of character work. All right, well, I think that pretty much covers everything, most of the big parts at least. So next week we should be continuing this journey of Dolores trying to save her species in a way. And that's sort of what this show's balancing out into, is a war of species, a war of dominance. What is the next level going to be? Is it going to be humanity, or is it going to be artificial? And continuing to weigh those questions is what makes reality, what makes you real, what makes you alive. So brilliant stuff. That's the one thing I love this show doing, and it does it so well. So thank you so much for joining me with this review. I hope you liked it, and if you did, you can hit that like button. It's okay. Thoughts, ideas, comments, you know where to put them, down in the section below. Love the conversations. Please keep it up. Let's just keep it civil. Mostly do, and I love that. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Subscribe if you're not. We're just starting the season. So much more episodes to do. Plus, we got Legion. We've got the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then we've got Preacher coming up next in June. It's going to be here quick. Don't want to miss that. You want, if you're a subscriber, click this button and you are. And then we'll go ahead and throw up our latest couple of reviews right here, and you can check them out. They're pretty good. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.